Hello and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for joining the webinar. We will be starting very shortly. For those of you who just joined, welcome again to this webinar, important discussion around interoperability using a dynamic social registry. We're just going to wait a couple of seconds for a few more people to join, and then we'll start right in. Okay, we have a pretty good group here. Let me start by apologizing for my sort of bad voice. I have a bit of a sore throat, but I'll do my best to run you through. We're really excited to have everyone online. It's going to be an exciting one. Today is about talking interoperability, a dialogue series for advancing interoperability in social protection, and we're going to focus in on Rwanda. Next slide, please. Welcome once again from wherever you're joining. I will be the moderator for this. In my time zone, it's afternoon, so I would say afternoon session. My name is Christabel Dadzi. I'm a senior social protection specialist, and I'm the task team leader for the Ethiopia Productive Safety Net program working with the World Bank. And I welcome you all to join us. It's going to be exciting, invigorating. Just before we run through the overview of why we're here, just to say, please keep your audio muted. And also, if you have questions, just put them in the chat. It's going to be an interactive session. Next slide. I will spend a few minutes telling you about this program, how it came about, who is a part of it. It's essentially a collaborative by several development organizations to ensure that we all have access to digital convergence. And this Digital Convergence Initiative is a joint effort by the USP 2013 to support digital transformation in social protection systems. For all of you who work in this programming, you know that digital transformation has really helped us to take our programs to the next level. So this is an important initiative that was put together in 2021 to facilitate knowledge sharing, to build consensus on technical standards, and to support countries in their digital transformation journeys. Next slide. So the way the approach works, it looks at three big buckets: knowledge sharing, global technical standards, and country implementation support. And these kind of intervene with each other. So today we're looking at knowledge sharing from Rwanda, looking at global standards with the Rwanda example, and then we go hone into what is happening at the implementation level as well. So we hope that you'll be able to get all three aspects from us. Next slide. So the standards that interface for interoperability are on your screen right now. You will see what the current standards hold, and then you'll also see the release standard. So the goal here is really to support the social protection system with interoperability and to provide these examples at the country level so that we can all benefit essentially from leveraging technology across board. So even beyond today's webinar is the tools that you can also tap into. Next slide. So what is Talking Interoperability? Essentially, it's a dialogue series led by the DCI to facilitate in-depth technical conversations around integrated and interoperable social protection systems. As practitioners, you know how important this is to you. At your country level, there is a deep dive that shares the technical nuts and bolts of the how-tos and also helps you understand how your agencies can tackle the major challenges with interoperability, as well as brainstorm potential solutions for remaining bottlenecks. So that is what we would be supporting you to do in this webinar and beyond. Next slide. Just to let you know, all the webinars are recorded and they are available online, so you can search. At the end, we'll also share the websites with you. And we ask that you keep informed, not just to today's webinar. Today is the 18th, and there's several webinars that keep coming. So we ask that you pay attention to these webinars and use them to leverage the important work that you do. So with that, I will jump right into our webinar for this afternoon. We're extremely excited, and the agenda will go as follows. Opening and introductions of our panelists, and then later on we'll have our discussants as well. We'll then have the country presentation, and then we move into discussion. The key here is for us to have a very good discussion together, and then we close on time. Next slide. Just a couple of housekeeping rules. As I mentioned before, please write your questions in the QA box. We have a team online who is looking and will alert us for us to make sure that you are all informed. I'll be doing the same to make sure that you come in as and when needed. We also ask that share any comments or resources in the chat, and then simultaneous interpretation will be available in English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. So please go ahead and look at the instructions and get online for the different languages as and when is needed. We also note that the session will be recorded. So by being a part of this, it means you're giving us your consent to record the session. Next slide. And just very lastly, as I said, please do stay muted if you are not speaking. Would appreciate that. So I'm going to jump into introductions for today. Next slide. We are very excited for today's interoperability talk to have two experts from Rwanda. The first is Ariane Mugisha. She is the Chief Digital Officer with Minaloc Rwanda. When she's speaking, she will tell you a little bit more about the work she does. We also have the second presenter, who's Albin Shema. He's Senior Software Developer at the same organization, Minaloc Rwanda, and they will give you a little bit more details once they get to the presentation. Next slide. We're also extremely excited to have discussants who are from the field and will be listening to the presenters and providing their input as well, based on their own experience and other global experience they've attained. The first of the two discussants is Murodjan Kalikov. He's Chief Specialist at the National Agency for Social Protection in Uzbekistan. We're very excited to have him. And we also have an expert from the World Food Program, Mustafa Gali. He's Business Transformation Officer. So once we're done with the presentations, we'll also hear from the discussants before we move into the discussion. Next slide. So ladies and gentlemen, please sit back, pay attention, and we'll move right into the country presentation, after which I'll be back to moderate the rest of the panel. Over to you. Next slide. I hand over to Ariane and Albin to take it from here.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Ariane Mugisha, and I work for the Ministry of Local Government as a Chief Digital Officer. In general, my job is to improve service delivery and provide a great citizen experience by the use of technology and digital transformation. I am happy to be here, and I'm going to lead this presentation. Later on through the slides, Albin Shema will also introduce himself, and he will also take on some of the slides. Moving to the next slide. I'm going to give an introduction to set the context of Rwanda as a country. We are a country with a population of 13 million individuals, according to the census that was done in 2022. And the poverty level is at 38.2% on the poverty line, the national poverty line set. The social protection system has generally like 9 programs across 4 agencies and 3 ministries. And these are programs run by the government. We have chosen to briefly mention a few of the programs run by the government. And starting with the VUP, it is the government flagship program that targets different groups of individuals. For example, there is a DS, which is a direct support for all vulnerable households without labor capacity. We also have the extended public works, which is for vulnerable households with limited labor capacity. We also have the classic public works, which is for poor households with labor capacity. And we have also a component for all pregnant and or lactating women up to 2 years. And also a component for poor people able to operate a small business or project. This government flagship program is led by an agency called LODA, which is Local Administrative Entities Development Agency. It has, each component has different coverage. And for the DS, we have around 104,000 households, as you can see on the presentation. And we go to the next, the extended public works, which has more than 82,000 households. We have the classic public works, which has more than 80,000 households. And for the pregnant women, it is called NSTS, National Nutrition Sensitive Direct Support, which has more than 142 people. And the last one has more than 60,000 loans at very low interest rate of 2,000 for the small businesses. Basically, this number one was the government flagship program. But on the next slide, we have also other programs run by different agencies. If we go to the next. Yes, among the program, we also have assistive devices for the targeted group of people with disabilities. It is implemented by an agency called National Council of People with Disabilities, NCPD, and the coverage, as you can see, is around 5,943. Those are people who received assistive devices in the past year. And I want to highlight that these figures we are projecting here are mostly for the fiscal year that ended in June this year. So it starts in July and closes in June. For this fiscal year, it is 2024 to 2025 June. The next program is Genocide Survivor Support. It has vulnerable genocide survivors, direct support. It has livelihood and shelter. This is provided by the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement. In coverage, each component has a different group of people. And for the direct support, we have 31,925. For the livelihood, we have 2,197 projects. And for the shelter, we have 744 houses for this genocide survivors program. Moving to the next, it is the direct support, and the targeted group is vulnerable ex-combatant. And this is provided by the Rwanda Demobilization and Reintegration Commission, RDRC. And in coverage, we have total 6,509 ex-combatant that were provided with their monthly allowances. We also have the human security that targets poor households in need of shelter and toilets, implemented by the Ministry of Local Government. And for the coverage, there were 1,928 shelters constructed, and then 3,920 shelter rehabilitated, 2,653 toilets constructed, and then 16,128 toilets rehabilitated for the human security program. Next. We also have rehabilitation and reintegration that targets delinquent people, and it is being led by the National Rehabilitation Services. And in coverage, we have 8,667 supported, and 476 were facilitated with toolkits provided in the program. We also have Kiringa program for poor households, and this is implemented by the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources. And this program provides cows for to the poor households. And so far, in the past fiscal year, we were able to provide 11,322 cows for households. We also have CBHI, which is a community-based health insurance implemented by RSSB. This is a typo where you see Minaloc, it is RSSB. And also, the coverage goes to 6,092,108 people. And the IDP, which focuses or targets the poor households in need of shelter, implemented by Minaloc, together with the Ministry of Infrastructure. And so far, the coverage is at 747. Decent houses were constructed, and more than 5,000 jobs were created. Next. Basically, that was an introduction of the programs implemented under the social protection sector here in Rwanda, but we have different partnership and collaboration with other key players in the sector, where we collaborate to provide the needed support to the poor and vulnerable people. On this slide, I'm going to briefly share information about our systems landscape, because we are talking interoperability, obviously. So we have the common digital infrastructure on the left, and we have the common information systems on the left that we're going to provide like insight on how these are integrated with the social registry that we operate here at the Ministry of Local Government. So basically, starting with the common identification system, this is operated by NIDA, which is a National Identification Agency. It covers around 98% of eligible people, which is people with 16 years old and above. For the social registry, yes, it is here at the Ministry of Local Government, it is live. And so far we have registered more than 99% of the households in Rwanda are registered in the social registry. For common payments platform, it exists in LODA, and it covers 100% of VUP beneficiaries. For grievance redress platform, it is under development. Same as the integrated beneficiary registry, it is also under development within the Ministry of Local Government. And we also have a civil registration system called CRVS, also implemented or operated by NIDA. So both the common identification system and the civil registration system are operated by one agency. Next. For the tax information system, it is also live and it is operated by the Rwanda Revenue Authority. We could not really get hold of the percentages of population covered, but for those systems we implement, you will see the numbers. For the social insurance, we have the Rwanda Social Security Board, RSSB, under the program, the CBHI, Community-Based Health Insurance. According to the report of June 2024, we had 86% of population that benefited this CBHI, the Community-Based Health Insurance. And there is a disability registry, which is live, operated by the NCPD, the National Council of People with Disabilities. And the land registry also operated by the National Land Authority. The list can be long, but these are the key systems we need for this ecosystem or for the social registry to start with and to exchange the data for accurate targeting of the poor and vulnerable. Next. So introducing the social registry, basically, as I mentioned, the social registry is operated by the Ministry of Local Government. We have called it imibereho in our local language, meaning lifestyle. Next. So the overview of the imibereho social registry system, it was launched last year. And we have 3,286,600 households registered. And we have individuals, which is almost 89.6% of the population, is registered in the social registry. So the size of the database is 407 GB. And the social registry basically targets the poor and vulnerable by the computation of a household welfare score. And for us to achieve that, we start by registering households per location. And through a survey, we are able to compute the welfare score for each household. Basically, the social protection business processes we support, it is the initial registration, the eligibility check, the enrollment, the grievance as a service is being developed, it is under development, and data management. At this stage, I'll call upon Mr. Albin to talk about the technology stack. Thank you.
Sorry, the previous slide, we still have some information. Previous one. Okay, thank you. So thank you, Ariane. So I'm going to continue with the technology stack we use. So for the user interface, we are having 3 ways to connect through imibereho social registry. So the first one, you can connect using a web application. So for web application, we used Angular as our programming language. So we're having a mobile app. Mainly the mobile app will be for enumerators to go on the field and collect the data about household information. about the changes, the updates in the household. So we used React Native for the mobile app. And then we also have USSD. So this USSD will be used by citizen. So as an example, I want to check some information about my household. I can dial the USSD and then get information about my household, or even try to appeal on that or transfer my household. So for the user interface, we use those technologies. It's Node.js for USSD app. For backend services, we used Java programming. So a framework called Spring Boot. That's what we use for backend services. And for storing the data, we used Postgres SQL for structured data. So this one will be saving all the structured data in our Postgres SQL. And then for unstructured data, we used Elasticsearch. So this one is for fast searches and then with larger data sets. Because, for example, for targeting, we will have to go through the answers of each member of the household. So this one, to be able to search in a big data set like that, we used Elasticsearch. Next one. So how the system has evolved, we started in 2022. So we started with our MVP, we implemented the MVP. We did the data collection for 2 districts. We added the PMT score, we calculate the score. And then from that, we got experience of how to implement the phase 1. So by 2022, we finished our MVP. 2023, we started with the phase 1, where we had the registration module, where enumerators went on the field and started registering households. And then in 2023 also, we started the implementation of targeting module. So by checking the criteria, how we can implement it and how we can target specific household based on the criteria. So in 2024, we continued with the targeting module because we saw a part where we need to enhance. So we continued with the targeting module. And then we did the integration with different key systems. As Ariane said, we integrated with different systems. We started with in 2024. And then we started also to implement the module of grievance and redressal module. So that was in 2024. So this year we are focusing on external user portal. So this portal will be used by external partners who want to support in social protection. For example, there is an external portal partner who want to support and then doesn't have a portal. We will be using this portal to share with him the list of beneficiaries, and then they can update us what support they provided to be able to track all the supports given to our beneficiaries. And then we're implementing also the beneficiary registry, which will be having all the beneficiaries which are being supported. So this is the main focus for this year, 2025. So next. So now the architecture. So for us, we used microservice. So we are having many services. So each services is handling their own business. So we choose this approach because of different many advantages it has. The scalability, you can be able to scale each microservice independently. So it's flexible. For example, if one microservice is down, other microservice can still be working perfectly. So we choose this approach, and then this one is the one we are using. So as I said, to start, you can connect to the system using these different 3 ways. So for USSD, as a citizen, want to check their household information. So for the laptop, this is the core functionalities of the system. You can access it here, the household management, the creating users, targeting. So this one can be accessed through the laptops. And then we're having enumerators who will be using the tablets. in case they want to go on the field to collect data or to collect data about a given household. So once these devices connect, we're having a load balancing. So this one will help to distribute the incoming call to the physical server. We are having multiple physical servers. So the load balancer will be choosing where to connect it. We're having an API gateway. So this one is a centralized, which will be taking all the incoming calls and put it on the backend services needed. So this one will be choosing according to the request coming, which microservice is needed, and then connect to that microservice. So for the backend services, we are having different services. We are having user management services, household management services, and we are having reporting services and USSD. So again, for this one, if for example, the reporting services is down, a enumerator can still go on the field and collect data. This is the advantage of it. So as the integration we're having NIDA, LAND, RRA, and so on. So this one will be connected to the backend services, either using APIs or using real-time updates, Kafka or RabbitMQ. So for the storage, we are having 3 different types. So for the NoSQL, not structured data, we are using Elasticsearch. For the structured one, we are using Postgres, and then the disk, we are using the reporting, we are using the disk to save different file generated. So this one, we are using the disk for the files, for the reporting. Next. So I will call upon Ariane to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Albin. This slide is about what were the needs of interoperability was designated to meet. So basically, interoperability was implemented to address several critical needs and challenges within our social registry system. Number one, the data collection and validation. Validating individual identification and access details from the integrated system like the national ID, CRVS, the taxes system, land, and the education system, SDMS. This ensures accurate information without requiring repeated responses and reduces the need for extensive questionnaires, minimizing the burden of citizens. Basically, our approach, because we started in just last year, we want to leverage existing government systems as much as we can to avoid having a long questionnaire for the citizen, but also for data accuracy. Number two, the social protection targeting. Enhancing our ability to share social protection programs, beneficiaries effectively by integrating LODA, MBIS, which deals with basically VUP beneficiaries and payments, and also the RSSB, which is the most popular one, the community-based health insurance. Because before there were different programs that are not systems not communicating to each other, and there will be like duplications in terms of targeting. And this time around, leveraging the interoperability is in that direction, so that we try to use the resources we have to reach to many as possible. And the third one is the seamless data sharing that I mentioned, enabling seamless sharing of household information with other institutions, promoting efficiency and collaboration, utilizing the government enterprise service bus, which is to streamline data exchange, making it easy to share data across the systems. The government service bus, the enterprise service bus, is also like a recent project, and not all existing government systems are connected there, but any system that is on the bus, for example, the ID system and the land and few other systems, we are able to connect to the bus and share the data, pull and push the data without having to connect individually to those systems. Next. What are the key milestones achieved due to interoperability? The system, the social registry system, as I've mentioned, it is at its early stages. We started last year, but we were able to also achieve some of the milestones, including the improved targeting, the accuracy of targeting of beneficiaries. Basically, through the interoperability, we are able to generate in the social registry a list of poor and vulnerable households that are eligible for the VUP program. And from there, the agency implementing the program can provide the what it entails without duplicating by also identifying each individual, the beneficiaries by the national ID, because we are integrated with the national ID. It avoids duplications again. Also, a fair and objective selection of beneficiaries. We are transitioning from the community-based selection to the proximity test methodology, where the identification, the selection of beneficiaries is done through answering some questions on a questionnaire where variables have different weights, and through a formula we are able to provide the score for a household, and like that it is a fair selection as opposed to the community-based selection. And also part of the milestones we're able to achieve was to minimize the inclusion and exclusion errors, and also the dynamic targeting and real-time updates through the integrations that we have mentioned above. Next. This next part is going to address the interoperability capabilities. How do we map the data exchange across the keys? So I hope you still remember the key systems we mentioned above: the common identification system, the social registry, the common payments, the grievance and redress, and the GRM and the integrated beneficiary registry, and then the CRVS. Currently for GRM and IBR, those two are under development. And based on the social registry system architecture, you have seen that we adopted the microservice-based architecture. And even though they're under development, we are able to leverage other parts, and we can contribute to the targeting of different programs. And going up to the part of the program, so for example, for the VUP program, it leverages the social registry and the common payments platform, and that is at LODA. If we go to the assistive devices, to select the beneficiaries, we have to use the common ID, and it is integrated as well. We have the genocide survivors integrated with the national ID, ex-combatant, direct support integrated with the national ID. Going to the human security, it is integrated and implemented by the social registry. Delinquent rehabilitation, it is integrated with the national ID. The Jirunga program, it is also integrated with the social registry, and then CBHI and IDP. These last three, the beneficiaries are generated through the social registry. I hope it's clear for this table. But generally in Rwanda, because of the national ID, and if you remember, we cover like more than 98% of the population eligible. So many of the programs are automatically integrated with the national ID by the start. And those other common information systems come at second. And the social registry is integrated as well with the common ID system. And where you see each program is basing on the social registry means that also it is leveraging the common identification system. Next. Next, please. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, the next slide is about the data standards. And this part is for Albin again. He's going to take you through our data standards.
Thank you, Ariane. So for data standardization, we have two ways. We are having a data dictionary, which will be providing metadata for each data element we have. So we are going to be having a data dictionary, which is updated every time there is a change on the database. So we're having entity relation diagrams. So this one will be having a visual representation of the data structure, including the type of the data we are having, including the keys we have, either the primary key, the foreign key, and then how they are connected and the relationship between them. So we are having in our team, we have a database administrator, which will ensure that it is updated and then up to date so that we can have an information which is current. So they will be working on this. They will be working on the database task. So how are we compliant with the standards? So we use data consistency to ensure that the database integrity and accuracy. So we are using ACID properties. So for this one, either they will succeed or fail as a single unit. In that case, you can go and update one table once it fails in the middle of the transaction, and then it stopped, but it will be rolling back so that it will succeed or fail as a single unit. So we're having constraints in our database for the Postgres I explained to you. So we're having primary keys, we're having foreign keys, we're having unique keys to help us with the constraints so that nothing will be updated without the main relation with the other one. So we have optimistic concurrency, where in all the data which will go in our database, they will have a timestamp when it's created time and updated time. And then they will be having a version number to track all the changes on that single record. So that's how we apply the data consistency to make sure that our data are following the standards. And then we're having a clean data. Next, please. Yes, let's go back again to Ariane.
Perfect. Thank you, Albin. Now, this slide, we are going to define how our interoperability interfaces are managed. We have 3 columns here. The left one in red is about programs, the social protection programs. And the one in the middle, that's where the social registry sits, and it is in the block of integrated delivery systems. And we have on the right side the common information systems. And the way we interface different systems and programs, now you see that for any program, any social protection program, operations and functions, let's say VUP, it goes through those stages through outreach and registration, assessing needs and conditions, eligibility and enrollment, payments and service delivery, grievance and appeals, and beneficiary management. And this, for the top two, we integrate with the social registry that provides potential beneficiaries through interoperability. And it is the gateway for registration and assessing needs. And if we go to the rest of the steps or phases for the programs, we have the payment platform as also as a microservice. The IBR and GRM are also developed and designed under microservice architecture for data exchange. And for the common information systems, where we have the common ID system, the CRVS, the disability registry, land registry, social insurance, tax, and so on, we also do the data exchange to mostly validation of the data, or even for the survey questionnaire to pull some data without asking to the citizens about those variables or those questions. And then we are also able to, again, communicate back the data we have on households, household composition, and the members through another layer of interoperability. Next. Yeah, I think for the data exchange protocols we are using, this part is also for Albin, and he will continue for the other similar parts like this.
Thank you, Ariane. So for the data exchange protocol, we are using mainly these three. So for different integration, the first one, we are using HTTP REST API for the request and response. For example, validating the national ID, where when we are registering a household member, we will input the national ID, and then we will have a call to the NIDA, and then NIDA will return us the demographic information. So this one, kind of this integration, we are using request and response in order to get the validation we needed, same as land information, where we put the national ID, and then we will get land information about that identification. So secondly, some systems are already integrated with the GSB, the Government Enterprise Service Bus. So this one, instead of having the point-to-point connection with each institution, which will create more work, we are having a Government Enterprise Bus, Service Bus. So for this one, an institution which is already on the bus, we will connect it through it to the bus. So for example, for that identification, we don't have a point-to-point integration with the NIDA, but because NIDA is already on the GSB, we connect to GSB, and then we get the demographic information. And then for us also, we share the data on GSB, because mainly they will be asking about household information. Instead of integrating with each institution point to point, we put our data on GSB, and then they can be consumed from the service bus. And then lastly, we are having also real-time updates. So for this one is, for example, we are having ServES. So for ServES, every birth event, we will get a notification, and then we have to update our household composition. So for this one, we need real time, because we can't request and get that update, but because they're updating in their system, we will be getting notification that they registered a new birth, and then we will be updating our data accordingly. So those are the main tools we use for our data exchange protocols. So for the data security and privacy, so we have a DPP law adopted here in Rwanda in 2021. So we follow this, and we are certified for data processor and data controller. So secondly, we hosted the national data center. So we have a national data center. It's where our system is hosted. And then for sensitive information, we encrypt them before saving it in the database. So that's the data and security privacy we're having for our data. And next. So we're going to continue with Ariane. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Albin. On this slide, we wanted to basically do a demo of the system to you, all participants, but we realized that we are on the live environment. So the system is in production, people are using it currently, and using a testing environment will not also help because you won't really get like that overview, but we provided a screenshot here for the look. In dashboards, we have two different categories where we present household data and also individual data. And for the total households currently, as I mentioned earlier, we have the total households registered in the social registry that are more than 3 million are registered already. And among them, the vulnerable household that were targeted or determined by the social registry were 1,313,189, which represent almost 30 or 40% of households. And the household in the social protection programs already enrolled are 1,979,849. So we are able to present the map to do like a representation of the map of the country, that is Rwanda on the right. And at each time you click on a province or a district, you are able to get like the total number of vulnerable households within that district. And maybe next time for other sessions, we'll be able to give like an overview, a live demo, but we provided this screenshot to like give you an overview of how it looks like. Next. This other part, we are going to mention the challenges and the way forward, given that this is like a second year of the existence of the social registry. We would like to present the challenges we've faced so far, but also later would like to hear from experiences, some of the challenges you faced, but also the way forward we have on the plan of things to achieve in the future. Next. So among the key challenges related to the interoperability, number one, we faced an institutional and political barrier related to the data governance law that was published in 2021. We are now certified as data processor and controllers by the NCSA, this is the National Cybersecurity Authority. That is the agencies that certifies government institutions in this law. Before the law, there were different challenges, you know, in terms of data sharing and data privacy and all sort of things we can face without that law. But when we were certified, it got much more easier to present to different institutions that here we are certified and you know, we are allowed to treat your data. The other challenge is related to the inconsistency institutions, and sometimes a system may be down or up, and for that time of being up and or down, we get that disconnect, and we were able to incorporate retry logic in our data integration processes. And if a system is unavailable, then the process can automatically retry the operation after a certain interval until the system is back online. And also, we faced a technical capability gap where we are now identifying strategies to support other teams as needed, because for the interoperability, we have systems that have been there for a while, and we have new systems throughout the digital transformation journey. And sometimes the teams, with our teams, we are not at the same level, we don't have the same skill sets. And when it comes to supporting different systems, sometimes we have to support another institution to get the data we want or to get the system we want. And also for the legacy systems, I think I've mentioned that for some systems, the update process is ongoing. So we have integrated them as they are, and we plan to integrate with the new versions once they are ready. Next. About changes remaining in terms of interoperability, I have a feeling that we still have a long journey to go. But to name a few, there is inconsistent system availability, outdated systems, the human capabilities, limitation in the skills, and then the data discrepancies, this one as well. I forgot to mention that this system was developed by Rwandans. We used local talents, and for all of these, for the interoperability to work, we need to tap here and there to use the resources we can to address these challenges. And we are still on a long journey to really have a great standard of interoperability, but we have started. I think we are on the right path. Next. Yeah, so for the future roadmap for extending the system's interoperability capabilities, there is a government service bus implemented by an institution called RISA, which is a government institution. So our plan is to integrate with the GBIS, the Government Business Intelligence System, for data-driven decision-making across various government institutions to have our dashboards generated by the social registry consumed or read by different decision makers in different government institutions, because GBIS is there for that. So in our next step, we are working at integrating on the GBIS. And also, we are planning to have a partnership with other government and non-government organizations for the targeting of the social program beneficiaries, because so far we are integrated with, yes, multiple information systems. But when it comes to the social protection targeting the beneficiaries, you've seen that we are integrated with the flagship program, which is the VUP, and the CBHI, the community-based health insurance. But we are looking forward to integrating with more services, more partners to support the entire social protection ecosystem in targeting using the social registry data. Next. Yes, at this stage, I think we would love to hear from the audience, specifically maybe to hear the journey of Uzbekistan about the particular challenges, and how they overcome them in terms of operationalizing their social registries. I thank you all for your attentive to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the invigorating presentation. It was really, really awesome to hear how far Rwanda has come. Ariane and Alban, thank you so much. I mean, as I'm listening to it, I'm really blown away by, first of all, how quickly you were able to put this together. I've known Rwanda has had a social registry for a while, but getting to the dynamism that you have. So before I turn over to the discussants to come in, I just wanted to just put a few highlights out. I think one of the interesting and I would say extremely positive points is what you said about all of this being done by Rwandan systems development. That brings ownership, that brings sustainability. So congratulations to you. And I think that is something that other countries should look at. Maybe one area that I wanted to hear more was around who all is using the registry. So 89% is an amazing feat. That's almost the entire country. And so that is really amazing. And I'm curious to know if beyond government institutions, who else would be using the registry? I think it would be interesting for our participants to hear. And then you mentioned challenges, but I also think when it comes back to you, it would be interesting to hear, like, was because the policy environment was set up, did that set the tone for everybody to follow suit? In a lot of countries, the big piece is how do you get institutions to coordinate around this? So that may be something that you want to think about and come back to us. But without wasting too much time, I'm going to turn over to our discussants who will lead us in their point of view, what is happening in their countries, and share. So let me start with Morijan from Uzbekistan. Please come in.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the great presentation by Ms. Mugisha and Mr. Shema. Actually, we are impressed because my other colleagues also joined and then listening and then watching your presentation. You have gone through the digitalization and the establishment of the social registry process comparatively faster than many other countries. We are actually amazed. And it actually resembles your steps, and what you have done is actually resembles in many terms the Uzbekistan's experience in the establishment and the integration of the social registry with other databases. So I'm going to comment and on some slides on some information you gave, and then give our impression. And also at the end, I'm going to give you a couple of questions to just clarify some information on the presentation, which is interesting for us. First of all, the grievance and redressal module, as you mentioned, you are now developing it. I suggest you to be very attentive with this one because you are now developing it inside the registry. We also tried to do this at the beginning, but we have huge population and huge number of vulnerable population. Almost 1/3 of the country gets one or another types of social services. So it was difficult at the beginning. The platform couldn't manage it. So we had to create separate platform for grievances and redressal mechanism. We have a separate call center, 1140 people call, and then we deal with their complaints and etc. But if you want to do it inside the registry, you have to optimize it a lot, and then integration should be really like faster and effective. For us, it caused problem. That's why we separately created new one. But when we created new one, we made sure that every grievance and redressal or complaints go to the local level management. For example, when a person complains about some service, etc., the within one day, this complaint shows up in a tablet of a social worker in the community. So it makes it more faster and more effective to deal with because the social worker is uh, familiar with the local context and then more familiar with the problem of the people who are living there in his or in her territory. That's why we went through this approach. Second impression is on the managing interoperability interfaces. Actually, you have done a really good, amazing job on that. I have seen the slides, how you explained, but if we understood correctly, these three pillars and then databases interact with each other point to point in mostly. And Mr. Shema, as explained, and now you are like improving the government bus, yeah, government data enterprise bus. I encourage you to work on that more because we have digital government platform, which is owned by IT Ministry. And this is like one database for all the sectors all the ministries and entities. All the information exchange and then integration goes through them. So it makes it easier. For example, we need some data from other database. We send requests to this government database, and through this database, we get it. And when it comes to through this government centralized database, it's validated, it's effective, and it's trusted. So it makes our work much easier. And then I encourage you to, let's say, urge your government to improve the enterprise service bus. Actually, that will be in the future really useful for you. Also, second point on that, managing data in social protection registries. Your social registry is a little bit different from ours because your social registry is for the whole population. Our social registry is called Social Protection Single Registry. It's not for everyone. It's only for vulnerable people who are getting one or another type of benefits or services or aids from the government. So it doesn't cover whole the population. It's around like 11% or something coverage. Other informations are stored in other databases, for example, common ID system, and then all is integrated to this government digital government platform. And here I want to say that I noticed that many of the data of vulnerable people is dispersed in different databases in your government. Of course, you are at the infancy of your establishment of social registry and the process, but in the future, I suggest that you take everything under one umbrella. For example, we have the Unified National Social Protection Information System. It contains all the platforms and registries related to social protection. For example, disability registry is inside this information system. Our social protection single registry is also inside this. Sanatoriums and some other recreational places, also the platforms are inside this. So we finally managed to gather them in one under umbrella, and it's much easier to control and then work on that. On the challenge of interoperability, I understand that you have, as you described, 4 types of challenges like inconsistency and then lack of personnel, etc. I would like to share you our experience, how we managed it. Actually, I want to tell you how we got lucky, because when we started our journey for establishing social registry, it was 2019, and right after the establishment, we started, let's say, asking for other ministries and entities to integrate their data. They were not ready because some of them didn't even have digitalized database. But then we got kind of lucky because we saw an opportunity in a misfortune. Then COVID-19 hit, and the government had a really huge trouble with the database of vulnerable people when trying to give aid and then help those people. So government understood after the shock that centralized database should be created, everything should, and all the ministries and agencies should be digitalized. So then government gave 2 years and sufficient finance to all the ministries and entities, and they give, if I'm mistaken, we gave 2 years. Okay, this is the time, this is the money, do your best, digitalize your old database and make them ready for integration. And within 2 years, all this finished, 2022, 2023. Now, at the beginning, our registry had like 9 databases of the ministries and agencies who are available. Now it's more than 16. And then now we have at the beginning we had like 2 types of information. Now it's more than 60. What I'm saying is, yes, it's a journey. It's you are in the start, but solid legal framework and some convincing and urge from your central government is needed for digitalization and integration of all the databases for the social registry. The last comment, actually, I partially mentioned it before that everything must be under one umbrella. As I observed that you have the same problem we had, and you still have partially this problem that now your social protection services and platforms are dispersed among 9 ministries and agencies. We had the same. We had 6 ministries and agencies who were responsible for social protection, and it caused a lot of gaps and misunderstanding and duplications and repetitions of benefits, which wasted a lot of money. So in 2023, with the decree of president, we established single national agency for social protection. It's in the level of ministries, and it's policymaker, it's implementer, it's monitoring and evaluator also. So we got all our databases on place. As I said, we gave time and money for the other ministries. They have finished it with their digitalization. It's almost finished. Now our social protection registry is working well. I can be proud of on that, and I believe that you are also in the same way, and you are going actually right in the correct way. Finally, you should reach the centralized database and centralized actually policy making also. Now we are just adding up the new databases which are ready. For example, there is new agency or new ministries established. We urge them to make their database digitalized and then add it to our system. And now when we have finished with the registry, now social protection agency and social protection field can look at the other policy trends and other activities. For example, we are now in the process of digitalizing the database of NGOs, non-governmental sectors, and private sector social service providers. This is important for us because our strategy defines that we should, in the next 10, 15 years, we should give all the social services to non-governmental sector. This is our divine goal. The agency should be only the regulator, not the implementer. I see that you are going also in this way, at least in terms of digitalization and interoperability. You will end up anyway at the end like this. So that's why I am really happy, and then actually I am proud of you, my colleagues, that you are going in the right way. And we will be actually now, our Uzbekistan team will be actually with a lot of interest will observe your progress because you are going actually comparatively faster than many countries, as I mentioned before. You might be going actually faster than Uzbekistan. I'm looking at your results. That's really great. This was my comments. These were my comments, and I want to clarify just 3 moments in your presentation, just for myself and for maybe other audience. 3 questions. How many types of data is integrated from your data from the other databases? That's not mentioned in the presentation. It's really interesting for me. The second question is, you have 9 platforms, 9 ministries, and you have human security. Platforms. You have common identification system and you have civil registration system. Both are regulated and run by NIDA. I would like to know what's the difference between these systems. what is their difference? And the third question is programs. You have 9 programs, and then you have, let's say, human security, poor households in need of shelter and toilet, and you have IDP, poor households in need of shelter. From my impression was like they are the same from the presentation. Maybe I'm being mistaken. Please, can you clarify on that? What is the difference between them? How is their interaction? These are my all 3 questions. I have many other questions, but I see in the chat that other people have already given these questions. So please, thank you very much for the presentation. Again, it's a great job. Congratulate you.
All right, Jen, thank you so much. And Rwanda has definitely gotten your stamp of approval. I agree with you fully that it's been really quick and very thought through, which is really amazing. And this is all about the learning, right? We learn from each other. Let me, Ariane and Alvin, hold on to the questions and let me go over to our second discussants, and then we come in and give you some time to respond, if that's okay. Yeah? All right, so let me go directly to Mustafa Dali from WFP. If you can come in with your comments and questions as well, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much, Marjan. Over to you, Mustafa.
Sure, thank you, Christenbel. And Marjan has been quite extensive in his comments, so I'll try to be more focused. First of all, this is impressive that we have reached that point in that quickly. I mean, congratulations to the team for this great achievement. In WFP, we are involved with a number of countries in supporting and enabling their single registries, social registries activities, and in that we try as much as possible to tackle it from a whole of government approach. So since we are outside the government, we have the luxury of looking at what is happening. So normally there is a national data center, a national cloud, service bus. You have data analytics tools deployed within governments, data quality tools. So there are always pieces of the puzzle that exist. And it is really important to consider that a key success is to figure out the right formula for making these pieces work together, rather than building sometimes custom platforms. We also observe that a great deal of success can happen if we adopt, state-of-the-art standard tools. Sometimes this can jumpstart things. Highly configurable tools exist these days that can enable the buildup of these registries and analytics and integrations associated with them in a fast track mode. This is what we have seen I've seen personally in a previous engagement in Egypt. We've seen it in Iraq. We're seeing it now in Iraq, and other engagements around the world are keep coming. So with that, we also see the challenges. The challenges are mostly, it starts with the political buy-in of the needs of this implementation for these single registries, and the human capacity behind it, because no matter what systems, without passionate people like Ariane and her team, Rwanda wouldn't have seen this kind of development. So it is critical that we also consider a rigorous practice for building the people who are manning these systems. And this is actually part of our philosophy as well. Whenever we engage in this, it's part and parcel of what we do. We need to have people inside government to do this. And again, the engagement approach, how we approach as an international organization, supporting such complex engagements. We are adopting a model of government enablement, that we are all in, government in the lead, and we support with knowledge, with acquisition of systems, tools, licenses, training, exposure. This is what we try to do. So that's a quick brief on what WFP is doing in this this domain. There is I mean, a lot of stuff is happening, but at a quick note, this is what we have. And I also see a lot of the questions that was suggested is already either covered by Morek-Jan or other colleagues. So I would jump to the most important question. I think that is I would like to learn from the Rwanda team. What if you want to do it again from scratch? How would you approach it? What would be the key lessons learned that you want to give to other countries? Thank you. Over from my side.
Thank you so much, Mustafa. That was extremely helpful. Let me first say that thank you to the 95 people who joined. Actually, earlier it was 112. And also we have 20 questions. So a lot of interest in this area. And I think our discussants have been excellent in setting the stage and putting some key questions forward. I will go back to Ariane and Alvin to attempt, you don't need to respond to every question, but if you can attempt giving some feedback and also focus on the main questions that came up, that would be great. And then we go into the audience discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christabel. I will start by answering to your question where you asked about who is using the social registry currently. So the way the social registry is designed, we have a module for household registration, and that one registers all the households in Rwanda. And through the survey that is implemented, we are able to compute the welfare score for each household. And then we do a ranking that is an automated ranking in the system based on that welfare score for each household. Now, that is done at the very local administrative level. Reference is made to our decentralization policy, where we have many entities at the local level supporting the government. And the lowest is the cell. So the household registration is done at the cell level, which is close to villages, actually. And in terms of who uses the system, that is number one category of users, which is the government entity, the cell, using the system to register the households. Now, the second step, once we have the welfare score computed, now we are able to determine who is below the line of poverty or who is below the cutoff line. And once we have that list, and it is done in the system automatically through the PMT methodology, we now share that list through interoperability. And if I take a use case of the VUP program, now we are able to send that list of beneficiaries, particularly for the VUP program, for now them to take it on and do a final targeting. Now, what the social registry does is the provisional targeting based on the welfare scores of each household. And then the rest or the next process is done separately by different implementers or, stakeholders or key players in the social protection ecosystem. And there we have the government and non-government institutions using that data to now target who is the final beneficiary of the programs they are implementing. So the citizens do not really use the social registry to register for any program, because our approach or the government approach is the other way around. It is the government that determines who is the poor and vulnerable and who is eligible for a program. And it is also the government that provides a program and deliver programs to the beneficiaries. However, citizens are able to access or use the social registry through a USSD code that Albin has mentioned to verify the household information or household data, because after registration, as a citizen, I need to review and, have this confidence that what is registered or the information about my household is accurate. And when it is not accurate, and when there is a need to update that data, so far, the citizens visit the cell again to make an update of the data. But in pipeline, we are building also capabilities to allow them to, update the data and get the cell to validate the data without moving physically to the office. And I think I've tried to answer your question of who is using the social registry. Moving forward, I would like to thank Mr. Murojon and Mustafa for your feedback and encouraging words. I understand you are very ahead when it comes to the social registries or social protection systems, and it is very encouraging to hear from you that we are on the right track. Yes. Now going to the question asked about the programs where Mr. Murojon, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Yeah. Where you asked about the Human Security Program and the IDP program. Yeah, they look like the same, but they target different people. For the Human Security Program, it targets individuals. And it is implemented by Minaloc. So basically, for those poor and vulnerable households below the cutoff line, when through the needs assessment, if they need a shelter or a toilet, the Ministry of Local Government is able to provide that. While the IDP program is a bigger program at the national level, where the Ministry of Local Government has partnership with the Ministry of Infrastructure. And that is for at the community level where the government builds an entire village, building houses, the shelters, and equipping the houses, building markets around the houses, the health facilities, the school, and also some roads in that village. And that is a massive thing where people from maybe a local village or where it is an area prone to maybe disasters or, any shock, they are moved in a group as a village and they are transported in a newly developed and built IDP village. I hope I'm able to answer to your question. Yeah, they look somehow similar, but the IDP is much more bigger and it focuses on a group or a bigger group of individuals, while the human security targets individuals and households in a daily manner. Thank you. I don't know if you want to comment on that or if I should move on with another question.
No comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. For the question, I hope I captured everything well. Moving to the question of Mustafa, it's an interesting one. Like if I had to do it again, or if we had to do it again, what would we change? That is a very interesting question because when we started this initiative of creating a social registry, as a group of people with a background in technology, we assumed that this would be like any system, like any others. It would be like, a system not very complicated, not with much complexity, and looking at the duration or the time allocated or even the project planning itself, we had allocated 6 months to deliver the social registry. And we realized that it was very ambitious because from the last year until now, we are still improving on the social registry. And if we had to do it again, we'll start by benchmarking even to even hear from different experiences from different countries like this very session we are having right now, to at least get the understanding of what we are about to go into. And we had to now build on the go by getting requirements, by benchmarking at the same time, by implementing what we understand. We were very agile, and I think it would have taken maybe not less time, but will be more structured. And in terms of achievement, we'll be able to tell that we are at this point now. But currently, you have seen we are still building, trying to integrate, yes, but also perfecting what we have done. And I think that would have helped a lot. So thank you for that point of reflection.
Thank you so much. If I may add, and I think it could be a good advice, at least from my humble experience, this to many countries. Look into what is there. Look into what is modular and robust solutions that can jumpstart this activity. Resorting to custom development of activities, it's good that you have the capacity and you're able to do this, but many times there are ways of moving faster, because the problems will not be in the solution, it will be in the dependencies on the databases that are not linkable because of God knows what, the infrastructure that is on and off, political issues, I mean, data quality problems, so the likes of this. So yeah. Over.
Yeah. Thank you. For the rest of questions, Albin is also going to answer some of them, and we shall get back to the moderator. Meanwhile, in the chat, we are able to also provide some answers to the questions simultaneously. So Albin, over to you.
Thank you, Ariane. So I'm going to be answering some more questions. So here, how many types of data is integrated from other database? So we are having demographics data, for example, with the data of NID and then surveys. So we are having education data. Here we are having the education level of the household members. We are having the health data with MOH, with the integration. We are having the social protection data. We are having the poverty classification, for example, the beneficiaries of VUP. So we are also having socioeconomic data, for example, the information about the land, about an individual. So we are having different type of data. So far is, I just wrote this kind of data we are having as of now. So in the Q&A, I found some other questions asking about the USSD. How are the citizen checking their data? Is it secure? So to be able to check your household information, so for us, NIDA, the identification, they link the ID to the phone number. So if I'm pressing the USSD code, I need my phone to be linked to the national ID I'm searching. So if not linked, I will not be able to see the household information. So according to the integration we have with NIDA, we will check the ID with the phone. If it's correct, you will be able to access your data. So that was one, another question in the QA. So again, another question, how are the user able to access the information? How are we protecting the information from the user? Because they are very sensitive. So here now, we have two ways. So the user will be created in the system and then given a jurisdiction. So you can see data which is above your jurisdiction compared to the district, sector, cell, and village. So for the village, you will be able to access only data of that village you are particularly in. And then to add on, also we use two-factor authentication. So first you will be having your username and password. So after providing the correct username and password, you will use the Google Authenticator, an authenticator with your information, and you will be able to provide a one-time password to be able to access the system. So that's how secure it is. So we will be creating users and then given a given jurisdiction so that you not be accessing all the data for the whole country. Unless you're on a national level, and then people on a national level will be for few people of them. So that's how our data are secured. So thank you. I think I went through different questions and tried to answer. Thank you.
You did. No, thank you so much to you and Ariane for going through the different questions. I think you've gone through some of them, and we can maybe open up for a little bit more discussion around from the audience in addition. It may be a little tricky to figure out who goes first. So if there are questions that you feel have not been responded to yet, maybe you can raise your hand. There was an interesting question around the GRM that I feel like we started having a discussion about, but it would be nice to get a bit more information from. Let me see if I can find it. And just to say, really nice to see some old friends and colleagues here as well. This is really a lot of fun in terms of the questions. There's the technical ones, and then there's the more policy-oriented ones. Should I just walk through maybe? But I don't want to go back to what you've already discussed. Or if Ariana wants to come in on some of the elements that she's seen as well from your angle. Maybe I'll just walk through. Yeah, let me just walk through, yeah? Let's see how far we'll go. So Ermina says, thank you. If there is interoperability with the tax system, CRVS, Land Disability Registry, why is there need for the proxy means testing for targeting at the community level? Isaac asks, what were challenges with interoperability of different MIS with the social registry? I believe that has come up. Brenda says, very interesting presentation. How did you determine the scoring? So there seems to be questions around the PMT and scoring piece of it from different angles. Robert says, based on your data standards, how often is the database updated with new bets and debts? That's an interesting question. Cholo says, did you have existing beneficiaries before the new system? So this is getting into the history of it. I'll do one more and then turn to you, and then we keep going. Gloria says, nice presentation so far. How is the data in the registry and system updated? That has come up once already. Another one from Cholo, did you have existing, I think this is already asked. Sheikh says, I have a question. For personal data, do the applicable regulations allow data to be hosted on the cloud, or is it mandatory to host it in the local or government data center? Maybe Ariane and Albin. Albin, since you're on the screen, you can go first, and then I'll come back to moving down on the questions. Thanks.
Well, I think most of them are PMT and the scoring. I can let Ariane start with them.
Sure.
All right. Thank you very much. These are all interesting questions. I'll try to go systematically and slowly. So for the interoperability, Armin says that if now that we are integrated with the tax system, CRVS, Land Disability Registry, what's the need of proximity testing for the targeting? Well, most of the data we get from those systems are part of the survey questionnaire, but we have determined around 17 variables in total that are best predictors of poverty here in our country. And we are not able to get all those variables from those systems. And that is why we have to also get another source of data and then run all at once through the PMT to get the total welfare score of each household. I hope I've answered to this. Moving to the next, the challenges with the interoperability of different MIS with the social registry. I think we have answered this through the presentation. I don't know, I was answering in the chat immediately. Now it is not clearing. So maybe Christabel, would you like direct me on which one is next?
Yes. No, so you did the PMT, which is great. And then I think there was another question around updating. A few people were asking how often you look to update the registry.
Oh, okay. When it comes to household related data, we are able to pick real-time updates from civil registries when it comes to birth and death notifications. And those are very meaningful when it comes to the size of the households because it has a weight attributed to it. And by the time that is registered, and births currently are registered in the hospital when mothers deliver babies, and immediately at the delivery of the child, they are able to register at the birth. And at that time, we are able to get the notification. So it is real-time data. And for other data types, there are some updates we get daily, but for the size of the household, we pick real-time data from the CRVS system. Yes.
Thank you. There are also questions around data integrity and personal data. Let me read two of them, kind of related. How do you address data integrity and quality issues in the partner systems you're integrated with to prevent any negative impact on your registry's integrity? A similar one also says, for personal data, do the applicable regulations allow data to be hosted in the cloud, or is it mandatory to host it at the local or a local government data center? So maybe just around discussions around the integrity of data and how you maintain that.
Thank you very much. So for the hosting of data, it is mandatory for government institutions to host their data within the National Data Center. That's a no-brainer. Yeah. So what we do to maintain the data integrity, actually, you've seen that we've tried to integrate with many government systems in order to avoid data duplication or even mistakes in like while typing the data or during data collection. And for demographic data, for example, we are able to get that through the national ID. So when someone types their ID during registration, we verify the validity of the ID, and then we pull the demographic data from the national ID system. And so generally, without taking much time, the data integrity is assured by leveraging government systems integrations. Unless Albin wants to speak also about this. Otherwise, I think that's the answer I could provide.
I think that the answers for both of them, yes.
Great, thank you so much. We'll keep plowing through. If I understand Sogo from Burkina, he's asking basically the fact that you have a social registry and a beneficiary registry. He wants to know how the beneficiary registry is collated so that it becomes interoperable. And I think the question is around, do you work with the individual ministries to ensure they're collecting data in a way that when it feeds into the registry, it's appropriate?
Well, now the Ministry of Local Government, in its mandate, it does coordination of the social protection sector. So by mandate, it is the Ministry of Local Government that is in charge of even determining who is poor or vulnerable here within the country. So for someone to become a beneficiary for any of the programs, they have to be selected or identified through the social registry, and then later benefit different programs. So for the government programs, there are institutions that have been there for so long and they have built their own system. And what we've done was to like now build this integration, and there is a whole paperwork around it to inform, you know, all government institutions that now there is a social registry, and it is the single source of truth when it comes to determination of the poor and vulnerable households. And now we are able to share that information. And once implementers get those potential beneficiaries, then they can proceed with, you know, according to what are their packages or anything, their eligibility criteria, to now narrow down the list to who they can really support. I hope I provided the answer, but that is how it works. Yeah, so none can go and identify their own eligible beneficiaries without starting with the social registry first. Yeah.
So if I understand you right, you start at the registry and then you pick your beneficiaries, you take it to the program you're doing. And I'm guessing there's some sort of a feedback loop back into the registry so that you know who is using the data when it's updated. I think that is very clear. That is gold standard, really. So congratulations to Rwanda for having that. I'm just curious, coming from a social protection practitioner angle, you mentioned that the hospitals, you have literally birth registration in real time. This is 100% in Rwanda. I find that extremely fascinating, just knowing other African countries. So I'm curious as to that and then when that started.
Come again?
No, I was asking, I'm curious as to the real-time registration of births at the hospital. You had mentioned that you get information real time on when there's a birth. And I was just asking from an inclusionary perspective, if that is 100%, and if not, how do you confirm births in other areas for those who don't have access?
Well, okay, thank you. So that is operated through a CRVS, and it started back in 2019. I think it was launched in 2019. So around 98% of births are registered in the social registry. But also in the remote areas, we cannot ignore the household that are somehow far from health facilities, and we are able also to register births in the community through the cell administrative level. But that is not done on the day of, you know, it takes time to identify who has delivered a baby in the community without getting to the hospital. But also that process is also fast because we have community health workers at every village in collaboration with the Ministry of Health. So even if a family is not able to get to the hospital to deliver their baby, they are identified within that week of delivery and they are registered in the CRVS. And by the time of registration, we automatically get that update in the social registry. So basically, that is how it happens. We are a small country. It's easy to manage. Yeah.
No, but it's also well managed. I mean, showing the role of the frontline workers, the community health workers being important. So I think that's something other countries can learn. Thank you so much. Sentayo has a question. He has two questions, but I'll pick on one since we're running out of time. He says, how are discrepancies in household socioeconomic data, such as the social registry, NCRVS, or land registry managed? And is there a single source of truth for data reconciliation?
That's a good one. So our social protection ecosystem in terms of service delivery, you've seen that we have recently developed and launched the social registry. And it's not that before then, the sector was not operational. So what we've done is to, now there is a data governance and protection law that was launched recently. And through that, institutions are able to register as controller or processors of data. And through that process, that's where we determine who is the single source or the source of truth for something. And for us, for the Ministry of Local Government, it is the determination of the poor and vulnerable. But if you go to the LODA, for example, the local administrative agency, for them, they are in charge of now providing the VUP, delivering the VUP program. And so it is in their responsibility to now build a system related to cash transfers or delivery of, social beneficiaries to different beneficiaries, and so on. So there is no such a single institution in charge of everything. We register according to our responsibilities, and that is how we also get to have a visibility of who does what in the country.
Great, thank you. The next, I'm picking on two questions, and I'm going to open it up to both the presenters and the discussants because it's an interesting one. First one is asking if what you've developed is a framework that other countries can pick and use. And my guess is the thought process is around things like the OpenMIS with a cloud system that people can pick up and use. And then the second question related is from someone from Liberia. He says, how can a country with many complexities, the 8th poorest country in the world, where do we start? So I think this is a good question for not just the presenters, but also for the discussants if you want to come in. So who'll go first? Ariana, since I see you on the screen, you can start.
Well, starting with the very last question, I think for the government of Rwanda, it was easy because digital transformation is part of the National Strategy for Transformation. And each ministry was enabled with a strong team of a digital or of, how to say, people with a digital background or, a group of young talents in system development and also ICT in general. So from where to start, I think we all go in parallel because of our different mandates and that the institution is empowered to develop their own solution. But at the head, the Ministry of ICT controlling now deliverables within each ministry. So it depends. I would say that it depends on each country's structure, each government structure. But for us, the advantage is that we are a small country, but also the political will and that government priority of digital transformation in everything. And if you look at the current National Strategy for Transformation, NST2, we have a pillar. In the economic pillar, we have digital transformation. In socioeconomic pillar, we have to increase the capacity of households to sustainably graduate from poverty by the use of technology. And then you go to another pillar, you will see something similar in governance, to hear out citizens by the use of technology. So everything we aim at doing, all the indicators in the public sector are somehow linked to the digital transformation. And that is how we are able to achieve that.
Excellent,
Thank
you. Abin, you want to come in?
Can I comment on that? Or Mr. Gali, you okay.
No, please go ahead.
Just want to say that for the country, as mentioned in this eighth place in the poor country, first of all, you need to justify whatever the decisions your ministries and governments have to take. Actually, do a lot of extensive research and then do a lot of census data. Then you show that whenever your policymakers and then government sees the data and the difference on the coverage and the numbers actually show people that how the bad situation is or how the good situation is actually in terms of social protection. Also, it's very important. When you do that, when it's shown as justified, Of course, the poor countries may not be able to build these politic and economic institutes and social institutes just in one day. So you may start giving basic social services and some social services to the non-governmental sector and private sector. And after that, when your social services are more or less set, then you need to monitor, of course. At that time, even your own government understand that you need a database for monitoring of everything. So in my view, in our observation, many countries went through this way, and when they start from the scratch. First the research, census data, and then allowing the population service to each other with NGOs and in the private sector. Then you start monitoring with the registries, with the integration and everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Marijan. Mustafa, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I think I would complement that on the point of reusability that was mentioned. I believe each country might have different context. It needs a proper assessment before adopting a solution and plugging it in. So, but the important part is the knowledge, business flows, and I mean these are common information that can be shared. How to implement depends on the context and readiness. And talking about readiness, I think it's also an answer to our colleagues who are considering how to start in this. Before digital, before tech, it's people. So the government needs to get a good set of passionate, ambitious, capable digital teams in order to empower this. We see around the world many discussions. Yeah, let's adopt this system or that system, but when it and they could cost and either from government funding or from donor funding or cost a lot of money. But when it comes to human capacity, no, this is the thing that we cannot touch. This is no transformation is transformation. It's on digital as well as the capacity to run it effectively. So and when countries manage to get this critical mass of capabilities to design and run these systems, things start to become clear and decisions become better, a lot more efficient and faster. And also on that, you have to see that, to know that these kind of major digital initiatives have a lot of spillover effects in government services, in optimization, in other sectors. If we talk about core interoperability for government, it has a lot to do with tax evasion, better services to governments beyond social protection. So the discussion on interoperability and convergence open a lot of opportunities. Needs to be tackled. How to tackle it? Again, people, and then knowledge, and then we talk about systems and what to do. So that's my humble 2 cents, but it's a difficult journey. So I'm very hopeful that
I think we lost Mustafa. I'm going to put in a very last question to Ariane. And basically the question is asking whether there were beneficiaries prior to the registry being set up. And if there were, was there reassessments done? I think that's an interesting question. Very quickly, and then we wrap up.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much. Given that the social registry is like 1 year old, so we are actually in the middle of that process. So we are in the transition phase where now LODA, or the government arm in charge of providing VUP support or VUP program to the beneficiaries, is now leading a field survey and also putting together like a transition plan to those beneficiaries that are transitioning off. Because previously our methodology, our targeting methodology was a community-based approach. And now with the system, obviously there is a number of households that are not now found eligible by the social registry. And as a government, we cannot, drop people just like that. We remember we are in the social protection sector, and there is a strategy being now put together for this transition, basically related to the graduation. And we are helping these people and supporting them to now graduate out of poverty because they were determined not eligible this time around. And I cannot tell for how long it's going to take because, it is under development, but obviously we are working on that. So for this group of people that are transitioning off, yeah, there should be a strategy. And this goes to maybe countries that are still developing their social registries. There is always that group of beneficiaries that are going to transition off if you are switching from one methodology to another. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. I think it was really said well that if you're thinking about your social registry, think of the people, the knowledge, and the systems in your country. So that is, I think, a nice roadmap to look at. Please note that on the Q&A, some of them have been responded to, the rest will be. So if your question wasn't answered, it shall. And then you can also check out the website for the presentation and the recording. I know a bunch of you had asked that. But just to say a huge thank you to Ariane, Alben, Merijan, and Mustafa for an exciting discussion. And also for all our audience of 100 people who joined for making time to be here and to speak through. So I am told the next event is on April 22nd, so do stay tuned. And then you can go to socialprotection.org for more information on the initiative, but also on the presentations and on the recording. And do support. This all definitely comes at a cost. So it's important that all of you support. So many thanks to all of you who joined from across the world. We really appreciate it. Stay in touch. Let's keep discussing and learning from each other. Have a good afternoon, morning, or evening, wherever you are. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.